Welcome back to another game of GP Caracas. We have Epid versus Gender Terrorist. Epid is on Casino Scam, which is a combo deck that uses Body Time along with Black Hole Musings in order to draw their entire deck. And then they use Wish to See to coalesce Black Hole Musings into a creature, and then uses Darklands Charm in order to get the giant Black Hole Musings through and kill the opponent. And meanwhile, Gender Terrorist is on 80 card deserts without cuts. It's a green red desert slash Ponza type of mid range deck. I'm really not sure what deck's trying to do, and it also runs 80 cards for no good reason. I guess because Gender Terrorist couldn't figure out what cards to cut. But it's a mid rangey deck that uses desert synergy. It seems like Gender Terrorist has drawn a few of their best cards in the deck. Buzzard Barons, which is, well, they mulligan it, but they still have Buzzard Barons, but they don't have the right colors for it. At least they can still Desert Cycle for red lands, right? I'm pretty sure they have red deserts in their deck somewhere. So Epid gets a hand with Black Hole Musings and not much else. Epid keeps and bombs the Black Hole Musings. I guess it's because they don't really have the combo in hand. They can still use Black Hole Musings as a Sign in Blood sort of effect, but I guess they'd rather just drop Infectious Ego. So both players seem to have really slow opening hands. Or, well, no, now Gender Terrorist has red mana, because they can use Dapukan and Name Mountain in order to get red mana, and they can do turn 2 Imperial Siege to kill Epid's tap fetch land. Gender Terrorist isn't going to go for a turn 2 land destruction. I guess they're trying to play around counter spells. Well, looking at Epid's deck, yeah, they have Cosmic Sinkhole, so I guess trying to play around Cosmic Sinkhole. Instead, they're just going to pass it in turn and cycle or Desert Cycle Flourishing Lowlands end of turn. But Epid isn't actually holding anything. He got a handful of 4-drops and Needless Atrocities that doesn't hit anything right now, so Gender Terrorist playing around Cosmic Sinkhole turned out to not work out for them. Gender Terrorist they're cycling out to Nariba. And Epid, well, Gender Terrorist draws into the unknown. So I guess, are they going to play Imperial Siege now? If Gender Terrorist was trying to play on Cosmic Sinkhole, Epid still has Cosmic Sinkhole up for Imperial Siege. I guess they might just try to play Gear first. Yeah, they're going to do that, and I guess to bait the counter spell. I mean, I don't think Epid would want to counter Gear anyways, because they'd rather kill it with a removal spell. They're just gonna let Gear resolve and attack for 3. So by trying to play around Cosmic Sinkhole and not using Imperial Siege on the lands while they had the opportunity to, Epid will be able to drop a turn 4 Infectious Ego. Epid slowly fetching out their lands. Seems like they're not fetching basics to play around Imperial Siege. And at the same time, I guess they're just going to assume Gender Terrorist doesn't have Imperial Siege in hand, because they definitely would have played it by now if they did. Epid isn't going to go for the turn 4 Infectious Ego. Instead, they're going to Nameless Atrocities to force Gender Terrorist to sack Gear. I mean, they draw another Needless Atrocities. I feel like I would have just slammed Infectious Ego there, because Gender Terrorist controlled 4 permanents with Gear in play, and Infectious Ego forces a player with 4 or more permanents to sack something. So playing Infectious Ego there would have forced Gender Terrorist to sack either one of their lands or the Gear. And getting Gender Terrorist sack their lands at this point would be really good. And if Gender Terrorist sacked the Gear, then you basically got the same outcome as playing Needless Atrocities, except you're up a 4/4 that's threatening to make Gender Terrorist sack even more stuff. You know, Gender Terrorist has the option of either playing Into the Unknown or playing Imperial Siege now. I guess Gender Terrorist has enough mana to pay for Cosmic Sinkhole, so they're going to Imperial Siege. Probably a bit too late though. And they're going to use Tomb of Shifting Sands, or transform Tomb of Shifting Sands into Gear. So yeah, Gear is a land as long as it's in your graveyard, and Tomb of Shifting Sands turns into a copy of a land in your graveyard. So you can use Tomb of Shifting Sands and pay 1 mana to turn it into a copy of Gear. And that's a really fun combo. You pay 1 to turn one of your lands into a permanent 3/3 caster. So Epid finally draws Cosmic Sinkhole that Generatorus is spending the whole game playing around. Now, is Epid going to slam Infectious Ego, or are they going to Needless Atrocities again? I still feel like slamming the Ego is the correct play. Or, I mean, last turn it was the correct play, and this turn it's probably still the correct play. And looking at Generatorus deck, actually, do they have any way to kill Infectious Ego easily? Earthbreaker Behemoth, I guess? Yeah, it's either Earthbreaker Behemoth or 2 removal spells. But if you play Infectious Ego, then that keeps Generatorus off Earthbreaker Behemoth's mana, so yeah, definitely should be playing Infectious Ego here. But no, Epid decides to Needless Atrocities again. I guess they just want to get all the Needless Atrocities out of their hand before they play Infectious Ego, because this Needless makes both for a sack. Once you have Infectious Ego in play, Needless Atrocities becomes really bad. I feel like just playing Infectious Ego and then just not casting the Needless Atrocities is still better than playing the Needless Atrocities and then holding back Ego. Generatorus is going to play down their 4th land, or at least the 4th land on this board. They're probably just slamming down into the unknown here. Generatorus could try to play around Cosmic Sinkhole, except they can't really because all their stuff costs too much, so Epid is going to be able to Sinkhole whatever they play. And it seems like, yeah, Generatorus is still playing around Cosmic Sinkhole because they're going to play Enoshi first to bait out the counter spell before playing Into the Unknown. Actually, would Enoshi be better than Into the Unknown at this point? Maybe. Because if Enoshi comes down, then Generatorus gets to pressure Epid's mana base, and Epid is a deck that kind of requires lots of mana to function. And now I think Epid's finally going to play Infectious Ego, and that forces Generatorus to sack a land. And Generatorus doesn't really have a way to deal with the Infectious Ego. Probably going to sack the mountain here. And no, wait, Generatorus is just going to hand over the mountain instead of taking the poison counter. I mean, sure, Epid had Soulbreaker, but I feel like you should just accept that you're gonna get Soulbreaker instead of giving your lands to your opponent. And so Generatorus draws Tentagrove. I guess they can play it, get some land, and then hopefully hit something good off the Cascade. Okay, seems like Generatorus is just going to slam their 4-drop, finally. So now they have plenty of things to sacrifice to Infectious Ego. Or I guess hand over if they still want to keep avoiding the poison. And okay, Epid draws another Infectious Ego and is probably going to play it, and I'm pretty sure that probably seals the game for Generatorist. I don't see how they come back from 2 Infectious Egos. And Epid probably wants... No, they're not going to play the Infectious Ego pre-combat. Is Generatorist going to hand over something again? With Infectious Ego, you can either sacrifice a permanent and get a poison counter, or you can hand over one of your permanents and not get a poison counter. They decide to hand over their scouts. Are they just that terrified of getting Soulbreaker Makateshed? Like, if you take poison counter and you get Soulbreaker, then the worst thing that happens is that you lose a 1/1. But right now you're just handing over 3 creatures to your opponent. Okay, and the second Soulbreaker comes down post-combat. Generatorist hands over a land. Is there even any point to playing around Soulbreaker at this point? Well, I mean, I guess, like in this current situation, Soulbreaker won't force Generatorist to sacrifice their only token because Generatorist still isn't poisoned yet, but like handing over land and creature to your opponent just to avoid getting Soulbreaker is, I feel like that's way too extreme of a play. Generatorist draws Buzzard Barons, one of the better cards in your deck. Not in this situation right now. I mean, to be fair, I don't think there's any cards that are good in this situation, with the opponent being down with 2 Infectious Egos. Generatorist is going to play Tend to the Grove. Okay, let's see what they cascade into. Okay, it seems like they cascade into Buzzard Barons after going through a crap ton of cards. The Buzzard Barons will make more 1/1s to sack the Infectious Egos, but I don't think that's really what you want to... Well, I mean, it helps, but like, you're not winning this game. You have no way to deal with Infectious Egos, and you don't have enough mana to Earthbreaker Behemoth. In fact, I feel like Generatorist should have been sacking anything but their lands, because they want to get to 5 mana so that they can possibly top deck Earthbreaker Behemoth and kill the Infectious Ego. Of course, like that wouldn't matter either ways because Epid has 2 Wish to Seize to return the infectious egos. Okay, so they get the counter from Chino onto their scout. Doesn't really matter at this point. I mean, okay, doesn't. Now that Generatorus is going to get Mind Faltered, which will put a poison counter to them, they'll finally stop giving stuff to Epid to avoid the poison from the infectious ego. But they're going to play Needless Atrocities instead, which also causes them to sack their own token. I feel like that's a weird play. If you really wanted to get rid of your own scout token, you can just Mind Falters and then Soulbreaker. But I guess it doesn't matter because Generatorus was so far behind anyways, and they concede. Going to sideboarding, Generatorus has 80 cards, so it's 80 cards for no good reason. It doesn't have Yorion because Yorion isn't in the format. So Generatorus probably wants more Imperial Sieges because they do run non-basics. And probably Tenacious Guy to get through counter spells, Pearl Weaver because they're good against lower decks, I guess. And then for Epid, they probably want Descent on the Helpless for more removal, and then maybe Violent Claps, although Generatorus creatures might be too big for those things. And Valdez is probably also really good, just Valdez is just a good card in general. I'm actually not sure why Valdez is in the sideboard instead of the main deck, but yeah. And we're back for game 2. Generatorus drawing a hand that has Earthbreaker Behemoth plus Void Clear, but nothing else. Well, at least Earthbreaker Behemoth deals with Infectious Ego. Meanwhile, Epid also draws a hand that has lands and basically nothing else, so that's probably an easy mulligan for both players. Generatorus mulligans, and his hand with only 1 land, so I guess they're sending that back again. And now, yeah, they can keep this hand because it has Buzzard Barons and enough lands to cast it, and then also creatures to go along with it. So they're probably bottoming Vivid Mirage, and then a land, and then just going turn 1 Convoy's Companion, turn 2 Buzzard Barons, or actually maybe Highland Survivalist first. Well, they're bottoming the Highland Survivalist. I mean, that guy gives you mana. I guess Generatorus is just going to try to top deck stuff. Epid decides to keep their hand of 5 lands and 2 4-drops. I don't agree with that decision. I mean, how is Epid going to deal with early creatures? Are they just going to do nothing for the first 3 turns of the game? And like, they also don't have anything to do with Buy Time or Wish to See. They don't have anything to return with Wish to See. I mean, if Epid had one of the Revelations, then I guess I could see why you would want to keep Wish to See, but yeah, and then Buy Time, you don't have the other combo piece. Like, you don't have Black Hole Musings. Why are you keeping Buy Time in hand? Generatorus decides to play their Convoy's Companion on turn 2, so that they can buff it up instantly. And then forgetting about the fact that they play it this turn. Well, they couldn't play on turn 1 because Blooming Needles came to play tapped. So yeah. Your Black Hole Musings. Okay, so Epid does have the combo in hand. I don't think Generatorus has a way to stop it currently, or really a way to stop it in their deck at all. So I guess Epid keeping that hand sort of paid off for them. They just have to not die to Generatorus before turn 4. Generatorus doesn't exactly have that fast of a hand either. So Generatorus plays in the desert, puts in their counter on Convoy's Companion. And then I guess Generatorus follows it up with Buzzard Barons, although they don't really have any spells to cast afterwards, so they can't trigger the first ability of Buzzard Barons. Epid draws yet another land, but doesn't matter because they have the turn 3 win, or turn 4 win. I don't think they want to pay too much life here. They're probably just going to use it as a Sign in Blood. No, they're going to keep digging. But what are they digging for? Okay, I guess they decide to pay 4 life and probably grab Cosmic Cinco and Needless Atrocities. If I'm them. I mean, you don't really need those cards, but I guess Epid doesn't really know what's in Generatorus' hand. For all they know, Generatorus could have a way to stop the combo. Of course, if you actually look at Generatorus' deck, they don't have any way to stop the combo. Or I guess Land Destruction might get... No, Epid's on all basics currently. They're doing a really good job of playing around Imperial Siege, so They're not even stopped by land destruction. I guess that's why they didn't play out Ares Pillar even though it comes to play tap, because they don't want it to get killed by Imperial Siege and get set back a turn. And they're even going to discard Ares Pillar. So Ginger Terrace has one turn before Epid combos off, and I don't think that's enough to stop the combo. They attack with the 3-3 and pass. Are they going to forget to play a land? Yeah, okay. I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter. Epid can just end the turn by time and then win. Well, I guess they still have to sort of worry about getting burned out, but all of Gender Terrace burn is 3 damage, so they can just wait. Is Epid not going to combo out this turn? No, they're not going for the end of turn buy time to win. I guess that's sort of like missed lethal. Like what is Epid playing around by not going for buy time and then or buy time during their opponent's turn and then just win next few turns? Okay, now Epid's in trouble because Convoy's Companion is going to attack for 4 next turn, and then so they're dead to a burn spell from Gender Terrorist. So with Epid missing lethal, well, they draw Needless Atrocity, so they're kind of bailed out. Or, no, they can't cast Needless Atrocities. And they cast Soulbreaker. Wait, what did they name with the first Needless Atrocities that then? Seems like they named Sanjing. So they just didn't... I guess they just didn't realize that Buzzard Barons could have made a token there. The Generatorist plays Sahari. You can -2 the Sahari to kill the Soulbreaker, then attack through for 4. They can also play a land to buff the Convoy's Companion and then attack for 4, and then Epid's kind of forced to trump with Soulbreaker. Generatorist gets to flip land off Sahari. So yeah, that puts a counter on Convoy's Companion. Generatorist can still probably wants to -2 to Soulbreaker so that they can attack through with Convoy's Companion. I mean, they can also, well, if they draw a burn spell off Sahari, they can't play it. Like, actually, yeah, they can -2, kill the Soulbreaker, and then play another land, so that gets Convoy's Companion up to 5/5, and then that hits Epid down to 1 life. Unfortunately, it's 1 damage away from lethal, and not killing Epid this turn is going to lead to them getting the buy time combo off. Epid racks their Shifting Morass, end of turn. Epid draws another Needless Atrocities. This Epid finally going to realize that they could have won last turn just by playing buy time during their opponent's turn. They better not try to Needless Atrocities again here and miss lethal again. And like this time it's not actually going to matter because Minotaurus could easily top deck into a burn spell to finish off Epid. Wait, Epid isn't going to go for the buy time. Or are they going for sorcery speed buy time? That Epid, no, that's not how you play this deck. Buy time is an instant. Okay, hopefully has Epid realized that buy time is an instant? They're going to call Judge first. Or I guess they're just trying to confirm how the buy time combo works. Although I'm kind of surprised that they went the entire GP without knowing how their combo works. And wait, is Epid going for a sorcery speed buy time? Because that's not how you're supposed to play this deck. If Epid goes for sorcery speed buy time, I think they just lose, right? They get an extra turn after this one, but then the coalesced Black Hole Musings won't have, or will still have Summoning Sickness. Oh, okay, never mind. So Epid just lost. I guess seems like they didn't actually know how to play their own deck. Wait, actually, have they ever pulled off the buy time or the Casino Scam combo in a previous round before? I guess it would make sense if they haven't, and they've just won the games through stuff like Infectious Ego beats, because Confirmed Hypothesis, Infectious Ego, and Soulbreaker, part of the deck is quite good on its own. But yeah, Epid just lost because they only get 1 extra turn, and Black Hole Musings is going to come into play with Summoning Sickness. So the actual way to play this combo deck is to wait until it's your opponent's turn and then play buy time. And since buy time gives you an extra turn but prevents you from losing until the end of your opponent's next turn, you basically get 2 turns in a row afterwards. So then in your first extra turn, you play Wish to See on Black Hole Musings, and then exile your whole deck. You can't die, so you can play all the life you want, or you can lose all the life you want. So then you exile your entire deck and put Darklands Charm into your hand off Black Hole Musings. Black Hole Musings comes to play as a 40 power creature or something because you exile your entire deck. And then you go to your second turn, and then Black Hole Musings, the creature, won't have summoning sickness anymore, and then you can attack and put Darklands Charm on it, make it unblockable, and then one-shot your opponent. But yeah, it seems like Epid realized that they did not pull off the combo correctly. So it seems like we'll be going to game 3. So yeah, that's quite an embarrassing loss for Epid, because they had to win right there if they just waited until their opponent's turn to play buy time. Epid gets a hand with, well, they only have one land, so they're probably going to mulligan that. But that would have been a good hand, really good hand otherwise, especially if they had a shifting land, because they have confirmed hypothesis. So now they have a hand with turn 1 Valdez and then Cosmic Sinkhole, so they're probably keeping that. They even have buy time, though they don't have the other part of the combo. And Journey Terrace gets a hand with turn 2 Budget Barons, and then some pretty good cards to follow up with, so they're definitely keeping that. And then they probably bottom the redundant here. And both players keep. Epid, I guess they're probably going to turn 1 Valdez. Or are they not going to turn 1 Valdez? Okay, yeah, they are. Wait, did they just bomb Cosmic Sinkhole? Okay, yeah, they just bombed Cosmic Sinkhole for some reason. Are they that worried about having enough lands in hand? Like, if you're going to bomb a card, then bomb buy time instead of Cosmic Sinkhole. Or maybe Wish to See, I guess. No, just bomb buy time at that point. They're going to name low and manage to snag Budget Barons, which is really good for them. But Tyrannosaurus draws turn 1 Convoy's Companion. Or do they have an untapped land to play it with? No, they don't. In fact, they don't even have green mana. Yeah, I didn't realize that they don't have green mana. Huh. Yeah, the hand's a lot worse than I thought. Epid drawing another Flooded Depth. I guess they just play lands until they get to 4 lands and then play Valdez. I feel like this entire match has just been a comedy of errors. Both players decks aren't really functioning at their best. Okay, so that's not green land. Terrace is in trouble right now because they definitely need to draw a green land, and if they don't, then well, at least Epid isn't doing anything anytime soon. So Epid draws Infectious Eagle, and they're gonna play on turn 4. And since Terrace is still stuck on, yeah, they still don't have green mana, so once Infectious Eagle comes down, they're in huge trouble. At least the first Infectious Eagle isn't going to force a sack because Terrace is only on 3 permanents right now. So another Valdez. I guess Epid probably plays Valdez Adventure now. Or no, they're just going to slam Infectious Eagle because they have the mana. And because if you Valdez Adventure, then you're just wasting 3 mana. I guess they can also play Valdez and then Infectious Eagle next turn once Terrace actually has 4 permanents. I feel like you should just slam Eagle. Like if you can slam Eagle on turn 4, you should just be doing it. But Epid's going to play down Valdez instead. Oh, I mean, sure. I guess Infectious Eagle wouldn't be getting its full value if you play it now. But okay, and that's not a green land, so Terrorist is in huge trouble. Or actually, no, they can cycle it for a green land, so not as bad as I thought, but yeah, they're extremely far behind right now. If they cycle it for a green land, then Infectious Eagle becomes active. Although that does mean they can finally play something now. Probably gonna run out Convoy's Companion, and then sacrifice it to Infectious Eagle or something. Next turn they can tend to the Grove. Still though, Terrace doesn't have a way to deal with Infectious Eagle. They kinda need to find either an Earthbreaker Behemoth or 2 burn spells in order to kill the Eagle. And okay, Soulbreaker too. But Epid's probably just going to slam down the Eagle. And Terrace is probably going to sack the Almazar. I guess they can also sack Windworn Spires if they want. I mean, they don't really need double, or they already have double red. So yeah, Infectious Eagle comes down. What's Terrace going to sack? They're going to sack Windworn Spires. So Terrace would like a land here, and they get a land, so that's pretty good for them. And it's Tomb Shifting Sands, which will combo with Gear. Right now, the Harari doesn't actually do much because 2 damage won't kill any of its stuff. I guess something that Generatorist could do is play down the Tomb of Shifting Sands and then attack with Convoy's Companion. If Epid takes the bait and blocks with Infectious Ego, then Sahari will kill it. I don't think Epid's going to block with Infectious Ego, because that's a really obvious, like, that's representing a really obvious burn spell. In fact, something that can, what, actually, how many copies of Void Flare does Generatorist run? Okay, 2 copies, but yeah, Void Flare will also heal it back, and okay, not sure what happened there. I guess okay, so seems like Generatorist used Tenta Grove and cascaded into a high wild survivalist. So Epic plays Soulbreaker and forces a sack, since Generatorist was poisoned from Infectious Ego. We're gonna sack Convoy's Companion. So how much mana is Elmazar making right now? Not that much. Generatorist probably wants to ramp into Tyrant Tributes. And yeah, Infectious Ego swings and forces another sack. Actually, can Generatorist play Tyrant Tributes next turn? If so, that's no, they can't get Tyrant Tributes down. They're just going to sack Eroded Sanctuary. Epid's probably thinking about whether to Valdez or not. I guess Valdezing right now isn't that bad of a choice, because prevents Generatorist from coming back into the game. And if you're gonna Valdez, you probably want the Valdez low to hit removal. Or maybe Valdez high to hit Earthbreaker Behemoth. We'll see what Epid names. You're gonna name low. That lets Generatorist discard one of the gears for free. So they're probably pretty happy about that. Are they going to transform Tomb of the Shifting Sands right now? Do you have any... Well, Generatorist probably is going to end of turn activate Tomb on gear to turn it into a gear. No, they're not going to do that. And okay, Generatorist does draw Solar Flare. Too bad they don't have mana for... Well, no, they do, right? They attack with Highland Survivalist, and they have enough mana to Sahari plus Solar Flare to Infectious Ego. Now, they might want to play Sahari first, just to see if they can hit the Desert off the top. Yeah, Generatorist is going to Sahari first. They're going to use Sahari to kill the Soulbreaker instead of dealing with the Ego. Guess they just want to clear away for a High Wild Survivalist attack. So I guess they're just not dealing with Ego then. They're just gonna keep sacking stuff to hit each turn. I guess they can play gear with the mana they have and use it to, well, they can't really do anything though. They're just using the Solar Flare on the Valdez, so yeah, they're just gonna let Infectious Ego stay around. Trying to just keep sacking stuff to it. Epid draws Ares Pillar, so now Epid can wish to see back Soulbreaker Matakesh in order to force Generatorist to sack Highland Survivalist. And then attack Sahari, which actually Generatorist will just sack Sahari if Infectious Ego attacks it, so Epid attacks with Infectious Ego at Sahari, and Generatorist is probably going to sack Sahari to Infectious Ego. Generatorist doesn't actually sack the Planeswalker though. Epid plays down the other Valdez from the adventure. So High Wild Survivalist's Wanderlust is turned off because Generatorist sacked way too many lands. Okay, wait, yeah, right. Generatorist is going to turn Tomb of Shifting Sands into a copy of Gear now. And they draw Tenacious Guide, which they can play, but doesn't really do much in this current board state. Generatorist is just going to swing out. And then they're going to drop Tenacious Guide. Confirm Hypothesis. Oh, Epid can confirm a hypothesis to Infectious Ego trigger in order to get Generatorist to sack 2 things. I mean, I think at this point the game's pretty much over. Epid's just going to take over the game with Infectious Ego. But no, they're going to are they going to confirm the Shifting Wrath? I feel like they should have confirmed the Infectious Ego trigger, because that would have made more of an impact. I guess Epid just wants to draw cards before the combat in order to clear out stuff. They're not going to make off-color lands for Cosmic Sinkhole, and they get another Wish to See. So they can wish to see the Soulbreaker and force a sack, but they're not going to. They're just going to attack. I feel like Epid's holding back way more than they should, because they can definitely just slam the door on Terrorists right now, but they're not doing that. They're just they can't even do anything with the mana they're holding up. Are they going to post combat wish to see Soulbreaker? No, they're going to. Okay, I guess they have lethal. I guess that works out for them. And yeah, Terrorists goes to 0 life and concedes.